people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this. A bit of news out of the women's super bantamweight division. Apparently, Mary Romero, EBU super bantamweight champion Mary Romero, is set to take on unbeaten Ellie Scotney. A trip over to the EBU's website reveals that this fight is underway, and it may land on the undercard of Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. in early October. It's not a coincidence that this fight between Mary and Ellie is supposed to go down October 8th, the same day as Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank. I like this fight, and I suggested this immediately after Ellie Scotney's latest ring appearance, where she decisioned Maria Cecilia Roman, former IBF bantamweight champion Maria Cecilia Roman. You don't think this is too much too soon for Ellie Scotney? I don't. In spite of Ellie only having a handful of fights, sporting a professional record of 5 wins, no losses, no draws, and no knockouts, I think Ellie's ready for this. I think she's had the necessary fights, the necessary preparation, and possesses the necessary skill set to offset the come-forward aggression of Mary Romero, who's an experienced, come-forward pressure fighter that can cause an otherwise educated boxer to start to come apart at the seams. She's had a lot of luck with that in previous instances. I don't think she's going to have that luck with Ellie. Ellie, who's only 24 years old, approximately 13 years younger than the aging fighter, the aging Mary Romero. Rest assured, Mary is a capable fighter, a dangerous one, but she's not getting any younger. Ellie Scotney last saw action earlier this year in May against former IBF champion Maria Cecilia Roman. Before that, she took on yet another former IBF champion in Jorgelina Guanini. Those are two very credible scalps against two very capable former champions. Both fights took place this year. This will be Ellie's third fight this year. This will be Mary Romero's second. Mary saw action in May against then unbeaten Maria Secchi. Mary's taken a liking to collecting the scalps of unbeaten fighters, then unbeaten Lynn Harvey, then unbeaten Bilgener Aras, then unbeaten Amy Timlin, and more recently, then unbeaten Maria Secchi. In the last 6 years, Mary Romero has collected the scalps of 4 unbeaten fighters. Count them, 4 unbeaten up-and-comers. Could Ellie Scotney be the 5th? No, I don't think so. I think Ellie Scotney's got everything it takes to beat Mary Romero. That's what I think. Even though Ellie Scotney only has a handful of fights, just 5 professional fights, 5 professional contests, you have to pay attention to who she's been fighting. Melis Gangloff, Jorgelina Guanini, more recently Maria Cecilia Roman. These are all mid-range to inside fighters. They've all got the same sweet spot. Now, some of them might punch harder than some others. Better still, they're all mid-range to inside fighters. Some are more heavy-handed than others, some more experienced, and some younger. But Ellie Scotney won't be in unfamiliar territory opposite the ring a girl who wants to apply pressure on her, wants to put the squeeze on her. Ellie's not in unfamiliar territory. She's dealt with that before. She's about to deal with it again. And she can deal. She can hang. This is where her experiences with Melis Gangloff and Maria Cecilia Roman, Jorgelina Guanini, this is where those experiences and those rounds that Ellie Scotney has banked, this is where that will service her the best. For a while there, we were hearing rumors and rumblings that Ellie's next fight would be a title fight. Those rumors and rumblings appear to have checked out, as this super bantamweight contest is for Mary Romero's EBU title. The next logical step in Ellie Scotney's career: pick up a regional belt, pick up a regional title. That is what the EBU title is, presumably en route to a full-fledged title, a full-fledged alphabet title. And in time, I think Ellie Scotney will be ready. I think Ellie Scotney has what it takes to not just become a super bantamweight champion, but a unified and even undisputed champion at this weight. The buck don't stop there. With the kind of ceiling that Ellie Scotney's got, and time being on her side, that she's only 24 years old, she could very well see herself becoming a 2-division champion. I don't think she has the dimensions to campaign as high as 130 pounds, but she could probably cap out.
Right top off at featherweight.
I think that's her ceiling. I think that's as high as Ellie Scotney can go up safely. For now, she's got to deal with Mary Romero, and as stated, I think she has everything it takes to win this fight. The right balance of offense and defense, in and out game, speed, accuracy.
Ellie Scotney on points is my pick when the fight goes down.
Men's heavyweight news ahead of this weekend's big title rematch, title clash. Eddie Hearn says if Joshua wins, he's the biggest star in boxing by a country mile.
There is validity to that.
The kind of money associated with Anthony Joshua's fights, the kind of attention they get.
At least for now.
The options may be different for Anthony Joshua if he comes up short against Alexander Usyk for the second time, but promoter Eddie Hearn does not see a scenario where he believes Joshua should retire. Joshua is 32, young in terms of heavyweights, but some have suggested that he might not have been too keen to carry on if another defeat led to smaller purses than he has become accustomed to. Hearn does not believe that, though. If you are physically 100%, which he is, and you love the sport and feel motivated, and you are in your prime, which he is, why should you retire, Hearn said. But that's the pressure he faces from his position in boxing.
Because he's not just anybody, or he hasn't been.
Whether people want to accept it or not, he has been the cash cow of the heavyweight division, and in many ways, one of the major cash cows in the sport of boxing. If he wins, he is the biggest star in boxing by a country mile. If he loses, he will come back, rebuild, and go through the division again. There is so much on the line, I'm not even really thinking about both scenarios. The paydays and nights like this aren't there if you are fighting someone like Jermall Charlo. But he can still fill any arena or stadium in the country. He loves fighting. He loves going up to Loughborough every Monday and staying on campus. When the hunger goes, when he doesn't enjoy it anymore, that's when he has got to pack it in. But he is so far away from that.
I have to agree, suffering his third professional loss shouldn't herald Anthony Joshua's retirement.
It doesn't have to be that way based on the number of losses, should he falter for the second time against Usyk.
It's not the number of losses. Ultimately, it boils down to how he feels.
He's putting a lot of pressure on himself, Hearn said. Sometimes the talk is, I trained hard. Now it is, I have to win this fight. I like that because the performance he needs requires a little bit of desperation at times and a lot of ferocity. He is nervous, but he's not nervous because of the fight or Usyk. He's nervous about not winning and how that will make him feel. He's got to be desperate to win. By the 6th round, this fight either has to be over or Usyk has to be in tatters. You cannot let Usyk get into his rhythm. Last time it was the case of, before you know it, it was round 6 or 7, and the next moment you are back in the changing room.
He has to get off to a strong start.
Amass an early lead as best as he can. He's got to jump on Usyk early. Easier said than done, I know.
But isn't everything?
That's still what he has to do. The other good thing is that he has done 12 rounds already with Usyk, Hearn said. I have seen it before with guys like Tony Bellew. They overthink how good he is, and after 6 or 7 rounds, Bellew couldn't stand up because he was concentrating so much.
It's the same thing I've been thinking. I feel like Anthony Joshua overthought it.
He was overthinking in the first fight with Alexander Usyk, a cerebral fighter.
You go picking your spots, taking your time, shooting that jab, looking for opportunities.
Fencing with the jabs, fencing and feinting, and before you know it, the round is over.
You're not going to outwit this guy. You're not going to outskill this guy. You're not going to out-hustle him.
No, your best bet is to out-muscle him. Throw so much at this guy, so fast and so hard, he ain't got time to be cerebral. He ain't got time to think.
Eddie Hearn was quoted as saying,
that was why after the final bell last time, AJ said, I'll beat him the next time. A return to Saudi Arabia will never be without controversy, but the local promoters took more control this time, and Hearn believes that it has felt like a more normal promotion this time, and he believes Saudi Arabia feels more relaxed. Last time they built a stadium, they were up against it time-wise, and everyone learned a lot from that, Hearn said. I know this is in Jeddah, and that was in Riyadh, Rihanna, but this feels completely different to 3 years ago. There are changes taking place. It has been going great.
I said it before and I'll say it again. I think the focus of Anthony Joshua's game plan this time is to make it a close quarters fight.
Step into your jab, go to the body if you can, be aggressive, rough the little guy up.
Conditioning is key.
And when it comes to Anthony Joshua's conditioning ahead of this rematch, he says, I don't know how good my conditioning is. I'll find out on Saturday.
He doesn't know.
I can't say now, Joshua told a small group of reporters during a press conference call on Wednesday. What I've noticed in the fights here, I think, is all these guys have been sparring and training, and they get to the fight and they're fucking blowing. Like, it's only like Floyd Mayweather, like Errol Spence, I think Terrence Crawford. They have, like, phenomenal conditioning. They can work from one round to what, round 12, right? So I don't know how good my conditioning is. I hope it's good. I'll find out on Saturday.
It better be good, because if the plan is to be more aggressive,
To take more of the initiative, more often than not, in this rematch. Don't let the other guy lead. If you're gonna do that, you're gonna throw punches in bunches, and you want to rough this guy up, you're going to need the conditioning to do it.
this technique and this application, yes.
Applied sciences and strategy, what you're doing, there's those things, but there's also being able to do them in the first place.
There's skills and strategy, and then there's physicality.
Physicality, which accounts for sharpness and punching power, speed, overall athleticism, in this instance, stamina.
Those are physical attributes. Those are physicality.
The 32-year-old Joshua believes he can knock out Usyk in their second bout. He intends to put more on his power punches, but he'll expend more energy while trying to take out Usyk. That's why it was so important for the 2012 Olympic gold medalist to improve his stamina before he shares the ring again with the former undisputed cruiserweight champion.
And how has he done that?
How I've improved it is basically, I could just say, scientifically, pushing my lactate threshold up, Joshua explained. That's the easiest way to describe it, is you've got to push your lactate threshold up so you can be comfortable being uncomfortable, and that's what training is all about.
Yeah, I think Anthony Joshua lactating would make a lot of people uncomfortable.
Lactating, he's got milk in his breasts.
I don't think he's talking about milk in his chest. I think he's talking about lactic acid and the effect that it has on the muscles and all that stuff when you're going through a rigorous activity, something or other, something like that, something scientific. Essentially, he's got to be busier, and in order to be busier, he's going to need more stamina.
And he does need to be busier. He needs to back Alexander Usyk off.
Show more volume than he did the last time. More activity and more bad
He
intentions.
cannot allow Alexander Usyk to lead the dance.
This time I think Anthony wants to keep the fight in the phone booth. He wants to keep things within close quarters, in the pocket, deep in the pocket.
Might have the right idea, but applying it is quite another matter.
Think straight. Like, for all his fucking fans, the nigga's never fighting again. This house is gonna get fucking bankruptcy, whatever the fuck. They gonna foreclose this bitch because he can't even afford to fucking pay for it. Because that's how stupid he is.
That is Jermall Charlo's wife, soon to be ex-wife, and the story is Jermall Charlo has pressed charges against her. That's the story, according to Chantel Charlo,
Professional esthetician turned woman scorn.
who posted this image by way of her own social media with a caption that reads, "Building life with someone don't even matter once everything is torn apart. Never in a lifetime I would have thought that this person would do everything in his power to hurt me, especially after years and years. Everything that glitters ain't gold. Rebuilding my life, and I love it here."
Everything that glitters ain't gold. Ain't that what I've been telling you guys about Jermall Charlo?
Ever since his credit card was declined at some kind of a diner, some kind of a burger joint, let me tell you something. If you're a seven-figure fighter, or you pride yourself on being a seven-figure fighter, and you actually are a seven-figure fighter, stuff like that, it ain't gonna happen.
You ever heard of Canelo Alvarez's debit card getting declined at a diner? Anthony Joshua's.
Could you imagine? What would people say? And this is the same guy. This is the same guy that turned his nose up at a $7 million offer to come over to DAZN and box Demetrius Andrade in what could have been a middleweight unification match. He turned his nose up at that offer. He didn't want it.
Al Heyman and the powers that be didn't want it for him.
Did you hear what Chantel Charlo said?
Think straight. Like, for all his fucking fans, the nigga's never fighting again. This house is gonna get fucking bankruptcy, whatever the fuck. They gonna foreclose this bitch because he can't even afford to fucking pay for it. Because that's how stupid he is. And
She said Jermall Charlo is never going to fight again. Jermall Charlo, who suffered a back injury, reportedly, earlier this year that ended up in the cancellation of the Maciej-Suliecki fight, a fight that nobody was excited about anyway, but I don't know, did the guy really injure his back? Is it the kind of injury that could keep him out of action permanently? There are many ways to interpret Jermall Charlo's comments.
You pissed off your lady friend and now she's letting loose on social media.
That's what's going on, but there may be some truth to what Jermall Charlo is saying, highlighting financial woes that Jermall Charlo cannot afford the lavish lifestyle he has. He can't afford.
Think about it. He turned down $7 million Eddie Hearn offered him, but has he actually ever made $7 million from a single fight?
You know, you'd have to be some special kind of stupid to think anybody gave Jermall Charlo $7 million to box a Brandon Adams or a Juan Montiel. You'd have to be a blithering idiot to think they paid him $7 million to box a Sergey Derevianchenko in a pay-per-view that underperformed.
And he hasn't boxed at all this year, so what's his revenue stream?
How's he keeping the lights on? He seems to be going through a lover's quarrel, a lover's spat, and for that, Jermall Charlo is airing out his dirty laundry, which is in keeping with what I've always thought.
You know, Heyman used to be a music guy. He's into boxing now.
But he used to be a music guy, and a constant in the music industry is gimmicks and niches.
Jermall Charlo is a gimmick with a niche audience.
Mid-90s, early 2000s, you had any number of aspiring rap artists running around with cash advances from labels, giving off the appearance of wealth, the appearance of luxury.
The appearance to those that don't know any better.
I think the same rings true for a lot of PBC fighters. PBC fighters like Adrian Bronier, who periodically throughout the year cries broke and lashes out at Al Heyman. You see what's going on with Jermall Charlo.
He's a very unstable and dysfunctional individual.
You know what they say, birds of a feather flock together. Thus, their core supporters and their core audience reflect that instability and that dysfunction.
You gotta be dysfunctional. Something's gotta be wrong with you when you reject a multi-million-dollar offer.
I talk about it all the time. How if Jermall Charlo or his team, his handlers, really wanted that for Jermall Charlo, it would have got done. It got done for Jose Ramirez, so why didn't it get done for Jermall Charlo? I told you.
I told you there's something very unethical about how the PBC operates.
They seem to operate with their broadcast partners' best interests in mind as opposed to their fighters, thus highlighting the conflict of interest when the manager and advisor also acts as a promoter. He can't please and appease everyone.
Oh, no, somebody's gonna get fucked.
In this instance, the fighters are the ones getting fucked. They're turning down opportunities for big cash, big dollars on other sides of the street to stay on standby for Al Heyman's broadcast partners, be it Showtime or Fox.
They don't want to let their fighters cross the street, even if they can't compensate them for what they're turning down.
That's what I think is going on. If what Jermall Charlo is saying is true, I bet Jermall wishes he would have took Eddie Hearn up on that offer now.
Let these guys tell it. The streets are paved with gold over there on PBC Island.
But you heard what Jermall Charlo said. She's right. Everything that glitters ain't gold.
Is she right? Is Jermall Charlo never gonna box again?
Is his house and his home going to be foreclosed? Is he on the eve of losing it all?
Find out next time on Dragon Charlo Z.